We are Ham Radio. Welcome back, everybody. It's Freddie Mac, your Ham Radio Crusader, and I'm back with another video about Raspberry Pis. And I don't mean the literal Raspberry Pi. This is the Raspberry Pi single board computer, Raspberry Pi version 5, and we're going to put an NVMe drive on it today. It's like a solid state drive. Well, it is a solid state drive. These things are used to running off of little SD cards, right? Well, we're going to put a board on it and put a drive on it and make it a little bit heftier. Let's take a look. So you see here before you the Raspberry Pi 5. I believe this is a 4 gig version. And this is the Armor Light version 5 cooling fan and heatsink that I put on it. Now, I've ordered this S2 Pi. It's an M04 M.2 2280 PCI to NVMe top for the Raspberry Pi 5. And it came with a cooling fan. But since I already had one, if the case fits it with it that this goes into, I'm just going to use this one. And we're going to take this SD card out for now. So this is the S2 Pi M.2 NVMe SSD adapter. November 04 for Raspberry Pi 5. And as you can see, there's a little GPIO action going on right here. And we're going to put this together. So we probably ought to look at the instructions. Yeah, I tore them. It was an accident. Mount the screws and the standoff as pictured show. As picture show. Thank you, picture. So, okay, so we've got the Pi upside down. Ah, kind of looks like it's going on to the hat board first. I'm seeing all kinds of hardware action going on here. These come with some brass standoffs, some black metal screws. I don't know what goes where, because some of these screws go with the case. I kind of opened everything at once, so we'll just thumb our way through it here and see what we can come up with. I know this is a NVMe drive nut and bolt. It's just a matter of making everybody fit into place. Okay, so now I've got all those standoffs in place. Got the hat board on the Raspberry Pi 5, and it is clearing the heatsink rather well. I'm rather impressed with myself. So let's get the NVMe drive onto the hat board. But first, we've got to get the ribbon cable on there. So apparently they give you an extra ribbon cable, which is probably a good thing, because I ended up losing them both right here on my desk. Imagine that. But if you can't see it, right here on the top is some writing, and it says to hat and to the Pi. So it tells you which end goes which, and you want the lettering to the top. So anyway, if you get yourself a precision instrument, you can flip this little door up right here. In this particular setup, the cable goes through this board and out to the other side. So you want to get it in position first so you have a little room to work with it. No, I think I got it that time. Hope I didn't damage the ribbon cable. Okay, so after I did all that, I'm pretty sure I put the wrong screws in the bottom of this thing to make it fit on the, this will secure it inside of this. So let's do this gingerly one at a time. So instead of that flat screw, we're going to put in a standoff. All right, now we have all standoffs in there. That one's a little loose. Let's tighten that up. Our hat board is plugged into the GPIO pins. Our hat board is on. Our ribbon cable is on. So we've got our NVMe drive to put in here, and it has to be bolted down to this bolt because that's how long it is. But yeah, we've got a screw there. So there's a nice little interesting screw that fits this just so. If we pop that in there and we bring it down, yeah, it's level, so this little screw will go in that place. Now, if you had a place like you had a drive that was physically shorter, it'd go in one of these 3 pins, you'd have to put this riser right here and then use that screw to put it on to keep it all nice and level. Why they designed it this way? Not a clue. Not a clue. But they did, and it's our deal to deal with. Getting all this assembled is only half the journey. But we have now got an NVMe drive, 256 gig, on a hat board, attached by ribbon cable to a Raspberry Pi 5. I believe it's a 4 gig. So let's put it in the case. These items, the links for this case and this hat board will be down in the description. You just got to make sure that your hat board, is compatible with the drive that you end up using. Some of them take different sizes, etc., etc., etc.,
etc., etc., etc., etc. Good day, sir.
And there you have it. So we're going to go in like this. Now we've got clearances for our SD card, our reset switch, and you'll be able to see the LEDs blink in this hole. We've got our USB-C power port and our mini HDMI/USBs dongle ports, our USB 3.0s, our USB 2.0s, and our Ethernet connection. And it's got a cooling fan in there. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take an SD card and we're going to flash it with the Raspberry Pi Imager with a version of Raspbian, not ASL 3, and I'll show you why. Okay, so we've opened up our Raspberry Pi Imager program, and the first thing we're going to do is choose device. Now this is a Raspberry Pi 5, so now we're going to choose the OS. And since it's a Pi 5, we're going to pick the Raspberry Pi OS 64-bit. And we're going to choose storage, and we've just inserted this 32 gigabyte deal right here. And let's edit the settings real quick. Now, instead of calling this a node, because we're not going to use this particular OS for a node, this is only going to be a temporary segue, if you will. So I'm going to call it, let's just call it RPI-OS. I'm going to leave these here the way I know what they are. These are my defaults, because when it boots up, I want it to be on the network. America, Chicago, US, and services should, yep. Okay, so I hit save. I'm going to go yes and yes. Now it's going to make me authenticate again. Or not. Okay, now we're writing. We'll be right back. Okay, now that it's done, we're going to take this SD card out of this computer and we're going to pop it into that Raspberry Pi 5. We just put the NVMe board on and we're going to boot it up. Just hang tight. We're not done yet. All right, we're here on our Raspberry Pi 5 with Raspberry Pi OS installed, and we need to get the Raspberry Pi Imager also, but first what we're going to do is get a copy of, the Raspberry Pi image for ASL 3 downloaded onto this computer. There it is, and now we are downloading that. It'll take a minute. Okay. As you can see right here, that image has downloaded, so we're going to look and see what folder that it's in so we know where to go find it. It looks like it's in home/KD5FMU/downloads. Now we know where it's at. So I'm going to close out the web browser, and I'm going to see if Raspberry Pi Imager comes pre-installed. It does. I thought it did. I wasn't sure. So let's open Raspberry Pi Imager, and we're going to choose device. Yes, Raspberry Pi 5. We're going to choose the OS, and we're going to come down here and get the custom OS that we just downloaded, and right there it is in downloads. We're going to hit open, and now we're going to choose storage. We're going to choose the storage, and we see the NVMe 256 gig drive that is now mounted. It's the new one I just installed. We're going to go next, and we're going to edit the settings. And yes, we have it set for node 576332. We're going to leave that there. Okay, I'm going to make sure these settings are right. Our wireless LAN country is US. We're in the America Chicago time zone, and we're in the keyboard layout of US. On the services I have here are enable SSH and password authentication. We're going to hit save. And we're going to hit yes. All existing data on this drive will be erased. Are you sure you want to continue? Well, yes. Authentication is required to that drive, so we're going to type in the root password. And we are writing. Look at it go. This thing is fast. And we have to authenticate again to eject the drive. Now, this is the root password that we put in when we created the image. As written, you can now remove the SD card from the reader. Okay, now that the Raspberry Pi imager has put ASL 3 image on our NVMe drive, we've got to change the boot order of the Raspberry Pi because it's still going to try to boot to that SD card. So we're going to go to the terminal and we're going to type in sudo raspi-config, and we're going to go down here to advanced options, and then we're going to come down to boot order, and we're going to choose the NVMe drive there in the USB section. It just says NVMe USB boot from. Yeah, so hit that. Current EEPROM version, blah, 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 or newer not found. Try updating the Raspberry Pi RPI EEPROM apt package. Install latest EEPROM anyway. Yes. NVMe USB is now the default boot device. Hit OK. Okay, now we are done with this. Finish. And would you like to reboot now? Well, yes, we would, because we want to see if it's going to boot to that NVMe drive now. And now we wait. And look at this, y'all. Let's see what happens. It had to resize the file system. Now it's rebooting. And we are booting into Raspi. Or we're booting into ASL 3, I hope. It's doing a first-time setup. I'm sure it's going to grab some updates. Yep, there's the first boot service going. And we are at our login, and we have booted successfully into our NVMe drive. So we'll go ahead and try to log in, and from here, and then we'll SSH from here. KD5 FMU. Boom. We are there. Let's just see what our IP address is on the network, and it may not have grabbed it yet. So let me plug in an Ethernet cable and we'll try again. I put in the Wi-Fi settings when I burnt the image, but I'm not sure if it's taken or not. So we're going to give it a good 5 seconds here. See if it pulls an IP address from the network. And it has 192.168.1.159 from the looks of it. So we're going to exit from this and we'll try to SSH into it. Actually, we should have a landing page. Let's just try that out. Getting a little excited. I've lost track of things. Here. Ho, 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 y'all, there it is. Woo, this is exciting. And we can come down here into the configuration. This is in the system information, Raspberry Pi 5 Model B revision 1.0. We're going to view the hardware details. It's got a mass storage controller. The NVMe SSD drive is there. This network controller. Let's do the update, shall we? Let's just go on over to the terminal. Type in sudo apt update. My network, or I'm sorry, my internet has been running a little slow today, and I don't know why. It says everything is up to date. So we can go sudo ASL-menu. And there we are. We have set up our Raspberry Pi on a Raspberry Pi 5 on an NVMe drive and booted to it. I am super stoked, y'all. I've done this once before, but I forgot how I done it, and I had to go do some things. I had to redo some things and jog my memory about how I got it done. So now I have this video to refer back on. So now we have a functioning Raspberry Pi 5 on an NVMe drive, an M.2 NVMe drive. You don't want to use an M.2 NVMe SATA. You want to use an M.2 NVMe SSD card. The Pi hat that you use to connect your NVMe drive to your Raspberry Pi 5 will dictate what kind of memory, what kind of SSD drive that you use. So pay close attention to that. Now you'll see that the one that I used was kind of a pain in the hind end, but it works, and it works pretty good. And I'll put a link to it in the description, but I'll put some links to some others in there that look to me like they may be a little bit better. I'm a little arthritic, so it's kind of hard to maneuver and put that little thing, that ribbon cable together, but when I did, it just took right off. So we got it going, y'all. Boom. Hey, I hope this video was a big help for you in any way, fashion, or form, or fashion. I just hope it helped. We hope that this video was a big help to you, and may the other videos that we have help you out as well. So thanks a bunch, and we appreciate your support. Hey, this is Freddie Mac, your ham radio crusader, saying 73s, wishing all the good signals to be yours, and ham on, y'all.